Welcome to the Albuquerque Journal's premier high school sports show, Prep Central, with your host, James Yodice. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University.
Hi, everyone. I'm James Yodice. I am the Prep Sports Editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome to Preps Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school podcast. Forgive all the water today. I have extreme dry mouth today, so I'm going to be hitting the water bottle a lot. Please forgive me in advance for that. We've got a lot to talk about today as we reflect on Week 3 of the prep football season, and we look ahead to Week 4 this weekend. Week 3 was certainly the best of the 3 weekends that we've had so far if we're talking about a variety of games, competitive games, exciting games, crazy games. Week 3 has been, I think, the best and most exciting of the 3 weekends that we have had so far. We're going to talk about that here in a second, and then we're going to get into some of the games I really like for Week 4, and there are a few of them as we get into district play. We're into Week 4, and as I sit here and record this, it is September 11th, Wednesday. We're already into district starting tomorrow night, Thursday night. That's it. I mean, this is a really early start with these new bigger districts. So teams that haven't had a chance to get their act together yet, you know, they don't have any time left to get organized. They got to start right now. And then at the end, we're going to talk some other sports, a little basketball, a little soccer. We're going to talk about Jalen Holland, the former Los Lunas product, as well. So let's get into Week 3. As I mentioned, any number of great games this last weekend. I'm going to start in southeastern New Mexico. We had Hobbs playing Roswell at Wool Bowl in Roswell, and Roswell wins this game 37-35 in overtime. Essentially what it comes down to is Roswell scores in overtime, goes for 2, makes it. Hobbs gets the ball in overtime, scores a touchdown on 4th down after being pushed back to the 25 by a penalty. They get a 4th down run from the 1 to make the deficit 37-35. Go for a 2-point conversion, and it gets stopped, so Roswell gets out with a win. And we're going to talk about this Portales, Artesia, Lovington, Deming district. They're getting started this week too, just like we are up here in the metro area. We're going to talk about more about that in a second. The other great game that we had in southeastern New Mexico last week was Lovington and Carlsbad. Lovington scores with maybe 30 or 35 seconds left, beats Carlsbad 47-44. That was one of the crazier games of the season, no question. That was back and forth the whole second half. But Lovington is now 3-0. They've beaten 2 6A teams. They beat Hobbs. They beat Carlsbad. So Lovington's off to a good start. Artesia went down to the Field of Dreams in Las Cruces on Saturday, and it didn't go well. Artesia gave up 70 to Centennial. Zayden Davis, the Centennial quarterback, the senior quarterback, we've talked about him before. He's committed to New Mexico State as a linebacker. Zayden Davis had close to 400 yards rushing and 6 scores in this game, and I think 4 of the 6 were over 43 yards or 43 yards or longer. So he was just a completely dominant performer. And we're going to talk more about Artesia in a second. Artesia's slumping, no question. We're going to talk more about them in a minute. Las Cruces High, which had lost to Volcano Vista the week before, came back up here to the metro area, beat Rio Rancho 34-21. Big day for Danny Amaro, their terrific running back. A very important bounce-back win for Las Cruces after the tough way they went down to Volcano. So Cruces, they're involved in a big game this week. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Bernalillo. This is a team I'm struggling to get a handle on, even though they're 3-0 and ranked number 2 in the state. Bernalillo had a 14-7 win over Portales last week. Portales was ranked 2. Bernalillo was ranked 3. Bernalillo is now ranked number 2 behind Bloomfield. And this is a great win for Bernalillo, absolutely. However, I don't think we can label it as the signature win the Spartans were hoping for. Portales was playing without its star quarterback, Paxton Culpepper, a 4-year guy, a senior, who's very important to them. And I've said this before, he is as important to Portales as Cam Dyer is to La Cueva, as Amiri Mumba is to Highland. So Bernalillo beating Portales without Culpepper, it comes with an asterisk. I don't like saying that because it's still a really good win. It's still a very good win. But is it the signature win Bernalillo was hoping for? No, I don't think we can go there. Having said that, Bernalillo's off to a 3-0 start. They beat Valley, they beat Highland, 2 5A teams. And they are going to get a crack at Bloomfield around the middle of October. I want to say October 18th or so. They're going to have a road trip to the Four Corners, and they're going to play Bloomfield. That could be a number 1 versus number 2 game. So Bernalillo still has a chance to get that signature win that it is hoping for. But I can't give it to them yet. It's a great win. It's a solid win. But this is not a signature win, not without Paxton Culpepper playing. So we're going to say Bernalillo's in good shape. They look like they have most of the pieces in place to make a run at this. And this could potentially be a great story into November. A couple other games I wanted to mention. Las Lunas, which got pulverized by Cleveland in week 2, bounced back with a really good win over Farmington, 37-28. That is a strong win for the Tigers, who just really got beat up in the Cleveland game. And, of course, you'll remember Las Lunas was playing Roswell in week 1, and that game got lightninged out. So this really was game 2 for Las Lunas. So very good win for the Tigers bouncing back. Goddard came up here. Literally the only game between the two 5A districts, between a team from one district and a team from the other. Goddard came up to Milne, beat Valley 14-3. Valley's just a bit of a mess right now. That's it. There's no other way to say it. Valley has only scored 9 points in 3 games total. They've only scored 3 points in their last 10 quarters. They are really struggling. We're going to talk more about Valley in a second as we start thinking about week 4 games. But Valley's just, they've been in disarray, especially offensively. I don't think their defense has played terrible, but they're just not getting any help on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see what happens with Valley. A couple of games from Saturday I wanted to mention. St. Pius was down 22-0 in the first quarter to Moriarty. Came back and won the game 38-29. Great win for the Sartans. And you had Manzano, which was down 20-0 in the first quarter. And these games were going on simultaneously. Manzano was down 20-0 in the first quarter to Del Norte. And then Manzano, I think, scored the next 40 or 42 in a row and beat Del Norte 42-26. So Manzano's already won a couple of games, dropping down from 5A where the Monarchs were to 4A. So it looks like so far this has been the right decision for Manzano. They're playing more competitive football against these 4A schools than they were when they were in 5A, or in 6A for that matter, when they won state, and that was only 7 years ago. So good to see Manzano being competitive. They step out of district to play Hope this week. That'll be their last non-district game. And one other result I did want to mention real quick, St. Michael's completed its sweep of the public schools in Santa Fe. They'd already beat up on Capital. They crushed Santa Fe High the other night on the Demons Field, even though St. Mike's was technically the home game there, the home team there. St. Mike's beat Santa Fe 42-3. So St. Mike's, as it tends to do most years, proves itself to be the best team in Santa Fe, more than Santa Fe, more than Capital, which, I don't know, this is just me. That's got to just rub Capital and Santa Fe the wrong way, watching a private school, which is in a division several notches down from themselves, come in and just really beat them up. And, of course, St. Mike's is going to be down here in Albuquerque this week playing Albuquerque Academy on Saturday afternoon. I'll be out there. I'm looking forward to seeing St. Mike's in person. So those are some of the results I wanted to go through from Week 3. And also, before we move on to start talking about Week 4, I want to go through our nominees for the Stars of the Week. And, of course, voting is ongoing through the rest of the week. And we had some good candidates like we've had every week this year. Starting with Zayden Davis, the quarterback from Centennial, as I mentioned, just under 400 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns in that win over Artesia. We have 2 Carlsbad Cavemen on the list this week. Even though they were in a losing effort, they had 2 fantastic stat lines. Bobby Castaneda, their wide receiver, 12 catches, 220, couple of touchdowns in that 47-44 loss to Lovington. And Kason Perez, the senior quarterback from Carlsbad, 20 completions, 375 yards, 5 touchdowns. So big night for him. The other 3 that we have on the list this week, Matthew Prudencio, the senior quarterback from Lovington, who's been on here a couple of times now and probably will be a couple of times more before the end of the year. 28 out of 36, 347 for the yards, 6 scores, in the Carlsbad victory. Isaac Houlihan, senior quarterback from Albuquerque High. And Albuquerque High is off to a really good start. 2-1. We're going to talk more about them in a second. Rushed for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns, and also threw for 191 yards. Albuquerque High beat Alamogordo, Sarre Jeff Grammer, 24-21 on the road. And our 6th candidate for Star of the Week is Jet Gallus, senior from Albuquerque Academy. 9 catches, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns last week. And he also intercepted 2 passes as Academy beat up on Hope Christian. Jet is leading our voting as I sit here Wednesday afternoon about 4:30 p.m. He's got a whopping 69.8% of the vote. If you can hear my voice, you want to vote, go to abqjournal.com, vote for whoever you wish. I don't think there's actually any limitations on how many times you can vote, but I can't say that for 100%. But get out and vote, have fun. We try and have fun with it. So those are our stars of the week. We'll name the winner at the end of the week. So just to recap, week 3 was just a tremendous week for comebacks, for close games, high-scoring games, and it's been the best week so far, and let's hope this continues a trend.
Education and training at Western New Mexico University is accessible from every corner of the land of enchantment, providing limitless opportunities towards success for more than a century. And now, through the New Mexico Opportunity Scholarship, tuition and fees are covered for anyone looking to start or start over. Along with free tuition, books are always included for every WNMU student, assuring your only worry is how far you can actually go. Lift off toward your future and endless potential at WNMU today.
Okay, let us move on now. We're going to talk about week 4, some of the matchups I really love this week, and there are a few to love on this list this week. As I noted, because of the larger districts that we have now, district play is starting in several districts. District 2-6A, that's the La Cueva Sandia district. As a matter of fact, La Cueva is coming off its bye week. They're going to play Sandia on Friday night at Wilson Stadium. The other games in that district, you have Los Lunas and El Dorado playing Thursday night at Wilson. You have Santa Fe and Albuquerque High playing Saturday afternoon. Albuquerque High is 2-1, and if you remember, they lost their first game in overtime to Cibola. So Albuquerque High very close to a 3-0 start. I'm going to be at the Santa Fe Albuquerque High game on Saturday at Milne. I'm interested to see this Albuquerque High team. They've been pretty competitive so far, and you know what? They might be one of those sneaky under-the-radar teams to watch during district play. They're going to have they have to find a way to win 2, 3, 4 games maybe in district to really put themselves in position to get an at-large bid. They're not capable of winning this district, but they might be capable of gaining an at-large bid if they can win a couple of their key games on their schedule. So I'm looking forward to watching Albuquerque High. Of course, La Cueva and Sandia is a very old rivalry, and those two go back quite a long time. So those are some of the games in District 2-5A, which is now, of course, an 8-team league. I don't believe West Mesa is playing in district this week. They're playing Volcano Vista, I believe, on Friday, so they don't have a district opener yet this week. The district I really want to talk about is the Class 5A district, District 2. This is the Southern District. We've got 2 just ginormous games as district openers this week. Number 1 and number 2 in the polls, Roswell and Lovington. Those 2 are playing each other on Friday night in Lovington. And on that same night, Artesia, which I believe is ranked 3rd, and Deming, which is ranked 4th. Those 2 teams are meeting in Deming. So there's so much at play in this district. These look like the 4 best teams as we get ready for district. And there's some other good teams in this district, no question. Goddard, Gadsden, there's some other good team, Mayfield. There's some other good teams to watch in this district, but the top 4 at the moment are all going to be playing each other in this district opening weekend. Lovington, we'll see. Lovington went on the road and beat Portales. That was the game that Paxton Culpepper got hurt for Portales, their quarterback, their great quarterback. But as I noted also, Lovington has already beaten 2 6A teams. They beat Hobbs, their neighbor, and they beat Carlsbad. So Lovington has shown a lot. Now, is that going to play well against Roswell this week? We'll have to see. You have to remember, Lovington comes in, they move up, whereas they used to be a larger 4A school, they're maybe one of the smaller 5A teams. So we're going to see how their depth shakes out over the next 7 games when they're playing Artesia, when they're playing Goddard, when they're playing Mayfield, Gadsden, Deming, and of course this week with Roswell. So we've got a fantastic game between Roswell and Lovington. And honestly, if I had time, I would go down and see this game myself, and I wish I could, and I can't. That's how attractive this game is to me. And then you have Artesia and Deming. Artesia is in a bad spot right now. They're not playing good football. They gave up 44 points to Hobbs in week 2. They gave up 70 to Centennial in week 3. So do the math. That's 114 points they've given up. It is a little bit of a dinged-up defense. That's still 114 points they've given up in their last 2 games. It's still the middle of September, so I don't think it's necessary that we read anything into this that's not there. Teams get injured. It happens. It happens early. It happens middle. It happens late. Highland is one of those teams. We're going to talk about them in a minute. So I think I would only caution if Artesia does not beat Deming this week. It might be time to start looking at things and thinking that Artesia is going to have to fight pretty hard just to get a top 4 seed for the state playoffs, given the volume of and the caliber of teams that they still have to play. So. Artesia hasn't lost 2 in a row in a full season. I don't count the 2020, 2021, pandemic year where we had a few games in the spring. It's been 2019 since Artesia lost 2 in a row in a full season, and this is the first time they've lost 2 in a row under Jeremy Maupin, their fantastic coach who got hired at his alma mater back in 2021. So Artesia's lost a couple in a row, and this assignment is back on the road this week. Another really good quarterback they have to face, Ryan Alfaro from Deming. So Artesia is certainly one of the more interesting teams. Artesia is certainly one of the more interesting teams in front of us this weekend. Let's see how they try and put things together because, like I said, with the team still in front of them on their schedule, it's not a must-win, but it almost feels that way if you're Artesia. I mean, Artesia teams don't lose 3 in a row. It's just not really done, especially for a team that's won the last 2 state championships. So, going to be watching that game pretty closely, and as well as the Roswell-Lovington game. I was talking about Highland a minute ago. Highland had a loss last week here in Albuquerque to Taos, 30-16. Amiri Mumba only had one play in this game. I believe he played the first play. He had dinged up his ankle the previous week against Bernalillo, from what Coach Philip Lovato told me, and he was only in the game for one play against Taos last week, and then he was on the sideline. He was in uniform, so he clearly was quote unquote ready to play, but he didn't play much. And I mentioned him because, as I said a second ago, you look at a guy like Paxton Culpepper, the quarterback from Portales. He's out. That's a totally different team now. Now, Portales may eventually overcome this. Their next quarterback may come in and eventually get his feet under him, and they may eventually start finding their way. But right now, Portales struggling without him. Same thing with Highland. They need Amiri Mumba in the game, and they need him healthy. Highland can win this district. Given Valley struggles, Los Alamos clearly not as good as they were last year. Los Alamos just lost on the road to Pewaukee the other night, 14-13, a game that had no fans, by the way, because of a social media post that came out of Los Alamos. You may have read about that. Los Alamos has not looked great yet either. Valley, we mentioned, is a mess. The other teams in this district are struggling. Del Norte, Capital, Rio Grande, Oddly enough, the team that's playing some of the most competitive football in this district is Belen, which got lightninged out in its opener against Bloomfield. They gave up a very late touchdown in week 2 to Santa Fe, lost, I think, 34-28. They gave up a late score last week to Valencia, lost by 6, 20-14. Belen has been playing some competitive football, and they're coming off a terrible season. 2023 was just awful. They had a forfeit in there. I think they only won one game on the field the whole year. It was a mess. It was a real mess for Belen. But they have played some really competitive football, and Belen is playing Valley on Thursday night in a district opener in that district. And suddenly, and honestly, Belen looks like the team you almost have to pick in this game. They're playing better football than Valley is, plain and simple. Valley's opponents have been tougher than Belen's have, but Belen's in a position to go out and win and open. They're catching Valley at exactly the right time when Valley is struggling. But in relation to Highland, without Amiri Mumba, They struggled against Taos. I don't think they lose to Taos if Mumba plays. That's how valuable he is. I mean, this is a 200-yard, 4-touchdown a game kind of guy. He just has that much of an impact. So without him, they lose to Taos. And as I sit here today, I do not know if he'll play in their district opener at Los Alamos on Friday night. I just don't know. On our weekly picks list between Adam Deal, the voice of New Mexico United, and Cleveland Storm football for Sports Primo, I didn't even put that game on the list this week because I don't know for sure whether Mumba plays, and if he plays, how much he plays. So I didn't even put that on the list this week because there's just no way to know, how that game is going to go. I think if Mumba plays and he's relatively healthy, Highland beats Los Alamos. I think Highland right now beats anybody in this district if Amiri Mumba is healthy. The last bit of business, if we're talking about week 4, relates to the Rio Rancho schools going down to the Field of Dreams in Cruces. The 2 best 6A games of week 4 are both going to be at the Field of Dreams. I'm going to be down in Cruces on Thursday night for Cleveland and Las Cruces High. And we talked about Las Cruces coming up here the last 2 weeks, lost to Volcano, beat Rio Rancho, solid turnaround week. Now they play Cleveland. Cleveland lost its opening week game at home to Centennial by 7, and that was a late touchdown. Then Cleveland came back and hammered Los Lunas in week 2, and they just destroyed Clovis in week 3 on the road. So this is a great matchup. And then Friday night, we have Centennial, which clearly looks like the second-best team in 6A behind La Cueva, given the way Zayden Davis is playing. We have Centennial at home at the Field of Dreams on Friday night against Rio Rancho. So the 2 best games in 6A are both down in Cruces this week. Will they tell us definitively who maybe the second-best team in 6A is? Probably not. We'll just have to see how the results shake out. We're going to talk a lot about those 2 games next week for sure, but these are 2 elite 6A matchups. We're talking about, 4 of the top 5 teams, basically, or 4 of the top 6. You got to throw Volcano in there. 4 of the top 6 teams in 6A football playing each other head-to-head. You have La Cueva at number 1 and then Volcano in there, which played its way into the picture after the Hawks came back to beat Las Cruces a couple of weeks ago. So I'm really intrigued to see Cleveland. I've not seen Cleveland yet. I saw Las Cruces play Volcano Vista a couple of weeks ago. This will be my first look at Cleveland. They've got a deep ground game. They got multiple guys that can do damage on the ground. We'll see. If Las Cruces can find a way to slow down a physical offense like Cleveland, we're going to see. So I'm looking forward to this game very much. And like I said, the Rio Rancho Centennial game, Nate Pino, the Rams coach, he's got to be watching film on Zayden Davis from the Artesia game last week and wondering how in the world he gets a collar on this guy and keeps him in check. That's going to be, got to remember, Zayden Davis is a big kid. He's built like a linebacker, but he runs like a tailback. So that is an incredible combination. And he's very football savvy. So he's a lot like Cam Dyer. I'd say he's sort of the Cam Dyer of the southern part of the state in 6A football, and Cam up here to the north. Of course, La Cueva hasn't had a complete game since the state championship game last December. They only played 2 quarters and 2 minutes in the opener against Volcano. They only played 40 minutes, even though that was an overtime game, against the team from Pinnacle from Phoenix. So it's been a while since La Cueva's actually played a full game. I know they'd like to get some more work in. And I'll be out at Wilson Stadium on Friday night with that one. One more little bit of business before we kind of close up shop for the day. I want to kind of get away from prep football a little bit. I've got a couple other things I want to talk about. Chief among them, Jalen Holland, the former Los Lunas High star who went to a prep school in Phoenix earlier in the summer. Jalen, within the last week or so, came out and named his top 3 colleges, Oklahoma, Colorado, and the University of New Mexico. He's already taken his official visit to UNM. He just took his official visit to Norman, Oklahoma last weekend. I don't believe he has taken his trip to Colorado yet. I don't know that for 100%. I don't think he has. I believe that's still coming up. So I would expect a decision on where Jalen is going to go to college pretty soon, maybe within the next 10 days to 2 weeks, maybe even sooner than that. We'll have to see. And, of course, Lobo fans are hoping to play here. Jalen's family is still here for the most part, so we're going to keep an eye on that. Harper Dunn, the 6'6" sophomore at Corona. I was actually out at the New Mexico State Fair today, Wednesday. Harper also shows steers in competition. and I was down at her grandparents' ranch in Corona near the holidays last year, which is an extremely remote location, and did a piece on her. And we were talking about her love for agriculture and showing animals. And I told her, I said, you know what, if you come up here and you ever show an animal, I'll come out and watch and do a story on you. And I went out. She was showing a steer named Drew out at the New Mexico State Fair today. And she ends up winning the Grand Champion Award for the entire competition. The showing steers at the state fair is a little bit like the Westminster Dog Show. You have a lot of different categories, and then you get a winner in each category, and then all the winners of each category come together for the best in show. It's a little bit like that with showing steers, except all the animals roughly look the same. There are different. I wouldn't even begin to understand or try to explain all the different breeding titles that there were, but she won her division. And then came back and basically won Best in Show for the entire state fair. So her animal will go up for auction on Friday. So I visited with Harper today and her family who are all out there. I ran into Becky Preston, who is her stepmom. And, of course, Becky in her day was a fantastic girls basketball player at La Cueva. And Becky and I had a good laugh because as we're watching this show steer competition, for both of us, it was like being on another planet. We kind of know what we're watching, but we don't know all the particulars and the ins and outs. And we kind of had a laugh about how we know nothing about what we're watching. And it was kind of that way for me too. So Harper's family, her grandfather, her dad, and her grandmother indulged me today with any number of just ridiculously stupid questions to help me get an understanding about what it was that I was watching. But Harper won today. And I'll be writing about her today, actually. By the time you see this podcast, it'll be Thursday. It should be in the Thursday Morning Journal, and you can find it online, too. But I bring up Harper because just in the last few days, she's also received basketball offers. She's up to 24 Division I basketball offers. She hasn't even played a game yet in her sophomore season. She's 6'6". She's highly skilled, and she is highly coveted among some of the best women's basketball programs in the country. The University of Iowa, for example, Caitlin Clark's school, has offered her. The two most recent schools to offer her, Missouri and Kansas, which is odd because the club team she plays for is called MoCan, which, of course, is a combination of the abbreviations of Missouri and Kansas. And those two were the latest two to come on board and offer her. And I was talking to Harper today about this, and I asked her if her decision on college will have something to do with how strong that school's agricultural program is. And I got the sense it certainly will be. Not every school that has offered Harper is going to necessarily be a strong agriculture school, but many of the schools that have offered her, Kentucky was one example her father, Blair, told me about. Many of the schools that have offered her a basketball scholarship do have strong agriculture programs as well. So that's going to be an interesting thing. Agriculture is just a part of who she is. That's what she told me today. It's a big part of who she is. And it's one reason why she remains in Corona. A lot of people wonder why she doesn't move up here to the metro area and play for a school in the state's largest city. She likes it in Corona. It suits her personality. It suits her speed. She gets to do her agricultural thing in peace. And it works well for her. I wrote a big piece on her near the holidays last year, and she's a really fascinating kid, extremely well-spoken. She's done a little announcing even for the NFHS network during the state tournament, this last one in March. So I talked to Harper today, and we were talking about agriculture as it relates to basketball and the school she picks. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, there are a lot of the schools that have offered her are in the Farm Belt. Some are a little further south than that. So we're going to see how that plays out. I wanted to mention Albuquerque Metro tournaments real quick. This won't appeal to any of you who are outside the Albuquerque area listening to me today. The Metro soccer tournaments concluded last week. The Hope Christian girls beat La Cueva 3-1. The La Cueva boys beat St. Pius. That match went to penalty kicks. La Cueva won the shootout 3-2. Next up is Metro Volleyball this week. The championship match will be Saturday night at Manzano. I'll be out there for that. And we'll finish up with cross country. St. Pius's Super Cinco meet, which is really one of the most unique cross country meets in New Mexico. It's really a lot of fun. You take all the number one runners. Usually, at a cross country meet, you'll have runners 1 through 7 all running together, and then they take the top 5 scores for the team standings. At the Super Cinco, you have the number 1s racing against each other only, and the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s. It only goes to 5s. So The top kids all race against each other. The second-level kids all race against each other. And the winning team is the one that you take the 5 times of your 5 athletes, and whoever has the least amount of time covering the course, there's your champion. And you also do individual champions as well. So Corbin Coombs, the phenomenal runner from Oregon Mountain, who just killed it in the spring on the track. Corbin was the boys' winner, along with the Rio Rancho boys, who continue to dominate. Although the Rio Rancho boys still have not had their defending state champion, Charlie Voss, run in a meet so far this season, so far as I know. I do not know exactly the reason why, but he did not compete in the season opening meet in Cleveland, and he did not run last week at the Super Cinco. And Rio Rancho still went out and won the Super Cinco meet, which had a tremendously deep field, including, Academy, Los Alamos, all the good metro schools. So that was a really strong win for Rio Rancho. Gianna Raymer, the freshman now at El Dorado High School, she won. That's her second win. She won the Cleveland meet to start. And the Los Alamos girls, who had never actually competed at the Super Cinco meet, won the team competition there. So we got a lot going on. I believe the UNM Invitational is this week. I'm hoping to get out to UNM North Golf Course this week on Saturday, then do 2 football games, and then I've got Metro Volleyball in the evening. We've got the finals of the Albuquerque Academy Soccer Tournament on Saturday as well. Saturday is going to be a super busy day, one of the few days, maybe the only day of the entire fall, where all 4 fall sports come together with important events. So anyway, that does it for me for this week. I appreciate you sticking around and listening. We're going to break down some of these fantastic matchups in Week 4. We talked about Roswell and Lovington, Deming and Artesia, Cruces and Cleveland, Centennial, Rio Rancho. We're going to break down all of those games next week in the podcast. In the meantime, thanks for joining me today. It was good visiting with you all. Have a great weekend. Go out and enjoy the football. Be safe. You can find my podcast at abqjournal.com, of course. You can find it at YouTube as well and other platforms. And, of course, we encourage you to read, hear, listen. We're putting out a lot of really good digital content, not just me, but Jeff Grammer, Sean Ryder, our Lobo football writer. We're putting out some good stuff. So we hope you'll consume that part of it as well, in addition to our written product, either in print form or online. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody, and I will see you next week. Take care.
Thank you for joining us. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. If you enjoy our podcasts, please like and subscribe, and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source.